Thanks, Elaine, very much for joining us. I hadn't actually expected that Damien was going to spoiler what we're talking about quite as much as he did earlier, but we're here to talk about those videos that he had up on screen in the first talk and hopefully learn a bit more about how we went and achieved that. But maybe to take a step back first, Elaine, do you want to just introduce us a bit to Tails.com and where you are?
So I'd love actually to know if anybody has a dog and feeds their dog Tails.com actually. A few hands in the room? Okay, great. For anybody that isn't familiar with us, we are a D2C tailored dog food subscription brand. So it's our 10-year anniversary this year. So we were very much a growth business, survived COVID and all the upheaval since then. And we provide a 100% tailored kibble recipe for your dog. And also you can buy wet food and treats with us as well, and it's delivered to your door. So that's us.
Cool. And we've been working together about 3 years now, I think, is it?
Yeah.
And I know when we started working with you, obviously very, very performance focused, very conversion focused, but how has that sort of changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so I think if people are familiar with D2C subscription, especially where we are now, I suppose over the 10 years, we've gone through that kind of high growth scale up phase, and then start-up phase, and now we're at that still want growth, at that profitable growth kind of scale-up phase now. And from our marketing investment has been very much focused on driving new customer acquisition. So we have X amount of budget, what will that budget do for us? And to be able to draw a direct line to the value of that spend. And that worked really well when we were unique in the market in terms of our proposition. Nobody was offering what we were offering, and we are still unique in that sense. However, there's a lot more brands that offered something tailored or something a bit more bespoke. 10 years ago, we were very new and nobody was doing the same thing that we were doing. So actually, how do we evolve our marketing to still drive growth? But we were finding our spend wasn't working as well and driving the effective growth that we were seeing previously. So we're having to spend more to achieve actually less efficient growth. But it did work well for us for a really long time, but we're starting to see that bottom of the funnel focus drive less value over time. And actually, when we're thinking on a longer term horizon, so not just what's going to happen this year, and if anybody's worked for a really high growth startup business, you're really thinking like right now what we're going to do, then maybe a little bit next year. We're now thinking 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So in terms of our marketing approach, what needs to change for us to still see growth but efficient growth?
Cool, yeah. I think it's a challenge. I mean, probably certainly a lot of the clients I work with will be very familiar with. It's that sort of being, on the one hand, tied to, as Damien was talking about earlier, having to justify it all, but then also knowing that there's that long-term view and how you kind of combine them and make that case
100%
internally. So how did you go about kind of tackling that as a business?
So I'm not going to say it was easy. It was really hard. It took a very long time. So I suppose as a marketeer, we do understand that the customer journey and the path to conversion isn't a straight line. So especially in this media landscape. However, from a attribution point of view, and we've struggled with understanding the value and the impact of our media. So we still use a kind of last click proxy model, which then determines how the business looks at our investment and what value that has driven. So we look at our spend using a promo code attribution model, which has a very black and white view of the world. So that's where it becomes a little bit problematic, because then you have a culture where you spend £1 million and it does this for you. Mm-hmm. Does it really do that for you? Because especially with that kind of, it doesn't attribute any value to anywhere else with that very kind of last click attribution view. So over the last couple of years, in terms of where we have been seeing the trends, so COVID was challenging time for everyone, but actually for a business like ours, we had a huge amount of demand. So we weathered that storm really, really well. And then the last couple of years, actually, as the market has normalised, there's more competition in the market that are heavily investing. We are starting to see diminishing returns from this bottom of the funnel investment approach. And that's really evident in the numbers. So that was actually a really strong case for us to take to the business. If we want profitable growth over time, this marketing approach has to evolve, and we have to think, how can we do things differently to still gain healthy new customer acquisition volumes, but also we want those customers to spend more and stay with us longer. Because as a D2C subscription model, you invest in acquiring that customer, but therefore, and then that customer spends money with you over time. So, and we were seeing customer metrics starting to decline over the years. So very much from a marketing point of view, carrying on doing what we're doing, I think would have just seen us spend a lot more and not see the value that we were seeing, let's say, 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, from our point of view as Incubeta, what we're always interested in talking about is the digital side of things. But I know that wasn't the only part of your solution to this. So before we dive into the work we did with you, what was kind of the bigger picture in terms of how you approached it?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Digital is such a massive part of what we do, not just from a bottom funnel, but mid-funnel, consideration driving, but it's a significant part of our investment. My remit covers all channels apart from above the line. So it's when we were thinking around how do we evolve our strategy, how do we prove the concept, how do we even approach it when we've never really properly done it before? And as a kind of challenger business, test and learn is embedded in our DNA, so that's great. So we do want to try things. So we weren't shy about doing it. However, we had to be confident in our hypothesis that actually we do the bottom of the funnel really well. We spend a huge amount of money there. Actually, we're seeing diminishing returns from that. How can we move up the funnel? And where and how can we do it to make sure that we are being able to prove our concept and deliver value to the business for that investment? So obviously digital is a part of that, but how we kicked that off was getting our key agencies, including Incubeta, kind of to all plan together, which is really, really important. So we weren't siloed into kind of separate channels or separate budgets, because it had to be a cohesive approach in what we're doing. We had to understand, actually, for the investment that we had, where can we get the biggest reach for the metrics that we wanted to improve, and how can we prove that concept with a smaller test budget, and then also evolve that over time. And you guys were involved in that planning process with our above the line agency as well. And actually, just to mention that, it was a really great experience actually. Multiple agencies in a room, having to, and we're the client, we have to figure out, and they're helping us figure out that problem for us. And obviously working together, I know probably it's now a little bit more common, but I found the process, I think really, especially for this year, meant that actually the campaign itself was really joined up, which I thought was really great.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, we'll come on to the this year stuff later, but yeah, no, I mean, certainly to echo your point now, I think one of the things we like most about working with you guys is your openness to testing and learning, both in terms of, we've always had that very kind of iterative approach to how we work through, which is we're learning as much as you are, but also just your bravery to test. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, right? You've learned that it doesn't work as much as that it does. So I think that's always been something we've...
I want to test everything, right? So, and I think as a marketing team, actually that is embedded. We were never a conservative business. So as we grow, we have to be more mindful, but if we want growth, we have to challenge ourselves. But then we can mitigate the risks by size of budget, and we are already quite good at at that across the business, because I think we're very conscious. We work and operate in a very competitive category. How do we stand out and cut through when everybody else has pretty pictures of their dogs in their ads? What makes us different from other people? Not just our proposition, but also what messages are we trying to land from an advertising point of view, and who are the audiences we're trying to reach? And that was like a core part of us thinking about how we can evolve our strategy up the funnel to make sure that we do the bottom bit really well, but we need more people coming in. We need to make more people aware of who we are. And our brand awareness is pretty good in the UK, but actually our consideration piece was the area that we really wanted to improve.
Yeah, I remember the insights piece of work we did around that, which highlighted that. And I seem to remember there were quite a few, maybe not surprising, but certainly slightly unexpected insights that we got from that in terms of what the audience was looking for. And I know it formed the basis of a lot of our strategy in terms of media, in terms of creative.
Yeah, 100%.
In terms of messaging and so on. But you mentioned there, that budgets were a little limited to start with. So how do you go about tackling that kind of process?
So I would love a significant budget just to go out and test. And I would happily try and sell that in. As a business that has to work everything back to an indicative CPA, that is quite hard to get an extra investment of X mil. So ultimately we did some testing in 2023, identified some key areas, and we had some latitude in terms of what would be the results of that testing. That was part of our business case to the senior leaders in the business, but and also to the parent company Purina and Nestle as well, as in we needed this as a stepping stone to be able to understand what works and what doesn't work for 2024. And 2024 was the year where we wanted to up that investment and understand this was kind of our first proper year in our 3-year plan in terms of moving up the funnel and looking at what works and what doesn't work. So we identified some key areas that we wanted to test in 23, and the mid-funnel activity was a really key part of that in 2023 on YouTube and Meta. And we kind of went through a couple of phases last year and iterated on that in 24.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my favourite stats, which I should have got the exact numbers, but rather than looking at performance stats, is the number of dogs in the scale of each shoot that you did at each stage. The first stage was kind of in-house 1 dog, then it was a few. I think by the third stage we were 14 dogs on set or something, was it?
It was a lot. So we have a lot of people in our company have dogs, and over the years, a lot of those dogs have been in our advertising. So in the first, I suppose we call it our phase 1 shoot, this was our test the concept, actually do it ourselves. So we're not using previous footage that we've already shot. We are producing something specific for the goal of this campaign. So we used a dog from one of our colleagues, we used their house, we shot in there. And actually, I think that was a really good foundation for actually what we did next. And we went in with a hypothesis that to improve consideration, what messages did we need to land about Tails.com so people could get to know us better and therefore improve their purchase intent as they went down the funnel. So areas like taste and convenience and ingredients and nutrition and all of those areas. So our spokesperson for Tails.com in the video is our head vet, Sean. So we had him as the star. Well, I think the dog's the star, but he's the human star in the phase 1. Actually, we saw some really just great results from the performance of that content, and he is the consistent thread, as well as those messages which have been refined over the 3 phases. And I think that has really supported kind of that building of trust. As he's the authority there. So when he's talking about Tails.com and he's talking about nutrition, that adds a lot to, I think, the improvement that we saw in consideration. Yeah,
you talked there about having that kind of consistent thread through the campaign, because obviously that brings us, in terms of what you were saying earlier about collaboration with other agencies, obviously this year, you did this kind of a bit of a rebrand, a whole new brand platform. And so maybe talk just a bit about how we kind of looked at that from consideration point of view, actually keeping that consistency, aligning though with the TV ad, but also making it work really specifically for the digital channels that we were using.
So, rebrand this year. And we're still rebranding, so it's like a consistent process. So we launched our kind of new look and feel for our brand. And it wasn't 100% rebrand, but a lot of elements were changed. Colours, logo, tone, typography, all of those areas. New brand ad live, and that campaign went live in April. And we had a really big shoot for that. And that footage created our brand ad, but also our direct response ad as well. And there was questions within the business, we wanted to support that campaign, which was very much around driving awareness. People that didn't know who we are, they would be like, oh, this is an interesting ad. It's a little bit weird if you've seen the ad, by the way. I quite like it, but it's got like interesting music and it's got lots of golden retrievers running across hills.
The music's been stuck in my head.
Yes, I know. I was listening to it yesterday, actually. I couldn't get it out of my head. And then the DRTV ad is a build on that. And there was a question within the business, could we just not use this for consideration? But what we didn't want to do is just take the TV ad and put it on YouTube. So because we had some great learnings from the 2 tests that we did last year, and actually for the YouTube second phase activity, it surpassed our expectations in terms of the improvement and consideration from the lift test. So we were really firm on, we wanted to iterate on that. And because of all those learnings, and because we were confident in the concept itself, we could get more budget. We had more dogs. We had professional shoots across 2 days. I have a lot of dogs. 2 houses to shoot in, really high production values. But if you ever look at the first iteration of those videos and the second, there's a similar theme to them, but this third phase of ads are very, very polished. But they still have at the heart of all the messages that we want to talk about. And our campaign this year is around kind of that never average theme. So your dog is not average and our food is not average either. So we are tailoring our food for your dog and it tastes great. So all of those messages from 2023 still are super relevant. And I think team did a really, really good job. And the phase 1 shoot was in-house. I don't think we would ever do that again. So the big production, supported by Incubeta, I know it was a slog. It was over 2 days, 3 days, but the results were great.
I think it's the most fun our team have had all year.
Was it fun? Is it fun now?
But if you're going to be asked to do feedback at some point, if you all put in enough requests, maybe we'll send you some backstage footage because there's an awful lot of very cute dogs.
Yes,
and we've got a lot of it, so we'll have to see. So I'm conscious we're running over slightly. So just to wrap up, I guess, obviously we wouldn't be sat here. The campaign wasn't a big success, but is there anything in particular you'd call out or any kind of learnings you'd take from it that you kind of pass on to other people?
So for us, investing in a new channel in an area which is untested, for us to see results so quickly and to be able to prove that and then also justify more spend, I think that is really successful for us to be able to move to the next stage of our business in terms of our marketing strategy. Equally, I think we're delivering really high quality content and creative, which is resonating really well with potential audiences. And the ads are really good. It's something that we're really proud of. So there's the quality of the creative and how well that's working and the results that come with it. One thing I would say is that it was a journey to get there, not just the actual campaign itself, but actually being able to secure the budget and build the business case and prove the value internally. But we were just really persistent and we really believed in what we were trying to achieve. It's great that hypothesis has been proved true, but obviously test and learn, I think, has meant that that's really meant that we were successful. So if you don't have a test and learn culture, or people are a little bit more conservative and reluctant, this is hard. Like, you have to really convince people to say, invest this, I think it will do this, but if it doesn't do this, that's okay, because we've learnt that it doesn't work. So let's iterate on that. And that has been our journey over the last couple of years.
Cool, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Good pleasure.
Thanks, guys.